Welcome to Special Investigator, a podcast devoted to classic true crime murder stories. And today, I'm going to tell you what you can look forward to if you're a true crime lover. Oh wait, better introduce myself first. In case you don't know me, my name is Barry Bowe. I'm America's best crime writer, a tough guy, and a special investigator, all rolled up into one. And today, I'm going to tell you how I became all three of those things, in reverse chronological order. But first, here's what you can expect from Special Investigator. Starting next Monday, and every Monday thereafter, I'll be releasing a new murder story, a classic true murder story from the past. In fact, most will be murder stories that I worked on as a special investigator with a true detective group of magazines, now defunct thanks to streaming, but which was headquartered in New York back then. Now, the murder stories I worked on were committed in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Florida, California, and the Caribbean islands of St. Thomas, St. Croix, and Puerto Rico. In all, I worked on somewhere between 100 and 150 true murder cases. No smoking guns, murders that took good police work to solve. In fact, I've worked with some of the best homicide detectives in the world, and I've got a couple serial killers in the batch. So that's where the title Special Investigator comes from. True Detective made me a special investigator. And here's something interesting that happened to me on a train ride between Houston, Texas, and Jacksonville, Florida, nearly 30 years ago, near the end of 1996. Prior to that train ride, I spent 6 months in Houston working on an undercover FBI sting of the Johnson Space Center called Operation Lightning Strike. No, I was not a part of the FBI, nor would I have wanted to be a part of the FBI. That is exactly when I learned just how corrupt the FBI was. FBI agents ran a crooked sting. Instead of going in and ferreting out any graft that existed at the Space Center, they created a fictitious company. They hired aerospace engineers to work for their bogus company, paid them between $5,000 and $10,000 per month, entrapped them into committing petty crimes, then arrested them. I'll tell you all about that one day, but now, hopefully, with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino running the show, everything should change. Anyway, my New York City agent sent me down to Houston to work on a potential book movie deal with one of the men the FBI entrapped. I spent the first 3 months in a safe house outside Clear Lake, Texas, because the FBI wanted to kill the man who hired me, Dale Brown. Dale was an aerospace engineer at the Space Center. I would have been collateral damage if they located him, and this was before cell phones. So I told my family, I won't be able to communicate with you for the next 3 months. But don't worry unless a body bag shows up on the doorstep. The second 3 months, we were in court every day, and I was the head of the defense team working with one of the best defense attorneys in the United States. His name's Dick DeGuerin. If you remember the Waco siege in 1993, that's 3 years before my trip to Houston, when the FBI started out by launching a tear gas attack on the Branch Davidian compound outside Waco, targeting the Davidians' leader, David Koresh, then wound up attacking and burning the place to the ground, killing 76 men, women, and children inside the compound. I remember my mother being glued to the TV, watching the drama unfold on CNN. That's back when CNN was watchable, and Blondie might be hopping into the picture with us. Well, Dick DeGuerin was David Koresh's attorney, and he was the only non-Branch Davidian to ever set foot inside that compound. And Dick was Dale Brown's attorney. That's who I was working with. Just a couple of years ago, in 2018, Netflix put out a miniseries called Waco. Dick DeGuerin is a character in one of the episodes. He's played by Rex Lynn. If you watch Better Call Saul, you saw Rex playing a lawyer in 13 episodes. So, we're in Dick's office one night going over our strategy for the next day in court. By the way, other than space shots, Operation Lightning Strike was the biggest story to ever come out of the Space Center. We were the lead story on the news every day, on TV, and on the front page of all the newspapers. So, that one night, we're having a few beers when Dick's phone rings. He picks it up, and he's listening for a good minute. Now, Dick's a cowboy. He owns a cattle ranch. He wears a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. And then Dick says, "Son, I don't defend murdering bastards." It was Timothy McVeigh on the phone. He'd just blown up the Oklahoma City courthouse. He wants Dick to defend him, but Dick wants no part of him. Now, let's get back to the train ride from Houston to Jacksonville. Prior to going to Houston, I spent 2 years doing the research for my first book, and 1 year writing it. And since it's a true story about outlaw motorcycle gangs that takes 20 years to play out, the legal team at Warner Books is going to spend several months going over my manuscript inside and out, making sure there are no liability issues. They don't want to get sued. And then they're going to release the book the following spring. That process is going to take about a year. So what am I going to do until then? I got 4 nice advances, one each from Warner Books, German publisher Basti Verlag, the Doubleday Book of the Month Club, and the producers of Murder, She Wrote. So finances are no problem for the time being. What the hell? Let's go to film school. I'd like to be a director. So I attended the New York Film Academy. Back then it was in Robert De Niro's Tribeca building in the Village. Harvey Keitel and Martin Scorsese had officers in the building. And to timestamp it, De Niro was finishing up Bronx Tale, and Quentin Tarantino was finishing Pulp Fiction. So I haul-assed to New York for almost a year. Almost as soon as I graduate, Warner Books releases Born to Be Wild, and I get busy. I do a bunch of book signings in PA and New Jersey, plus a couple appearances on the AM Philadelphia talk show. And then Connie calls. She presents a Space Center situation, and off I go to Houston. By the time Houston wraps up, I've been going non-stop for about 4 years and need a break. Well, as it works out, back then I had a rich girlfriend who lived in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, just below Jacksonville. We met when I was living on St. Croix, working as a school teacher, a bartender, and a sports reporter for the Island newspaper. That's right, I was working 3 full-time jobs. Also, taking correspondence courses because I wanted to become a mystery writer. Plus, I was training for a triathlon, and I was still enjoying a nice social life. Looking back, not to blow my own horn, but I'm amazed at how much I could squeeze into each 24-hour period. She lived on St. Thomas, working as a gemologist in an upscale jewelry store in Charlotte Amalia. We got together when she flew over to St. Croix to participate in the triathlon that I was covering for the newspaper. There's a lot more to this story, but no time to expand right now. By the time I'm in Houston, she's back home living in Florida in a brand new condo a couple blocks from the beach. So I'm going to recharge the battery by spending the winter with her. I get on the train in Houston, and some guy comes in, sits down next to me. White dude, normal looking, in his 30s. The distance from Houston to Jacksonville is 821 miles, and the trip will take the better part of 3 days. After the train pulls away from Houston, we start shooting the shit. Eventually he asks me what I do. I tell him I'm a special investigator. And then he clams up and never says another word to me. The train makes a stop in New Orleans. That's about 350 miles from Houston, and it takes about 10 hours to get there. The train station is underneath the Superdome. It's a 10 or 15 minute stop, enough time to get off the train, get some coffee and a newspaper. I'm walking down the aisle right behind my silent companion. And as soon as he steps off the train, 2 plainclothes detectives slap handcuffs on him and lead him away. To this day, I have no idea why they arrested him, but I'll bet dollars to donuts that he thinks the special investigator sitting next to him was part of the team that arrested him. Now, like I said, I plan to spend the winter with my girlfriend, but those plans change abruptly soon after the New Year, in January. To be specific, on January 26, 1997. That's when I turn on the TV and see a SWAT team surrounding John DuPont's mansion back in PA. He just murdered Olympic wrestler Dave Schultz outside his mansion. John DuPont was one of the richest men in the world and heir to the DuPont chemical fortune. So it's a peaceful standoff while the cops are trying to figure out how to arrest him without storming the castle. And every TV station is showing the standoff. It's a huge story. So I get on the phone and call my agent in New York. Connie, that DuPont murder's in my backyard. She says, get your ass home, son. So I bid my fond farewells to the girlfriend and catch the next train back to Philly. That's opportunity knocking. This ride takes 16 hours, and by the time I get home, Connie's already made a deal with Showtime. I'm going to write the screenplay for the movie. I still have a signed contract with Showtime. They're going to pay me $1.2 million. But, alas and alack, if you know me, you know I'm not a millionaire. Showtime pulls the plug after I spend a good 10 months on the project. 3 months in court every day, doing research and interviews, then more time digging into writing the screenplay. But Showtime eventually calls and said they did a cost feasibility study. They don't think they can turn a profit on the movie, and they're pulling the plug. I get some chump change, but I sure as hell don't get $1.2 million. Oh yeah, I also strike out on the Houston book movie deal too. 3 jurors in Dale's case don't understand what entrapment is, and we get a hung jury. To get a book or a movie, we need a clean, not guilty verdict, but we don't get one. And we don't get a book or a movie deal. So that's 2 close calls with no cigars in less than a year. Now let's go back to Special Investigator podcast. Like I said, I'm going to release a new classic murder story every Monday. On Wednesday, I'll add some current true crime events taking place. And on Friday, I'll preview the story that's coming up the following Monday. So that's the schedule, I hope. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, where'd the tough guy come from? And that's spelled phonetically with 2 F's, T-U-F-F. The young lady and I went to a Phillies game back in 2009. If memory serves, that's the year after the Phillies won the World Series. We had a couple beers during the game, and we stopped at McFadden's after the game. She had a couple mixed drinks and I had another beer. Yes, I would have tested legally drunk, but I was not polluted. I could have driven home without a problem. I live just a couple miles from the stadium. But as it works out, as we're walking through the parking lot to my car, my left foot catches a deep crack in the cement. I go flying and land face first on the concrete. My face is beat to shit. I wind up with cuts and abrasions and a black eye. I take pictures and post them online the next day, and everyone wants to know what happened. When I tell them my trip, nobody believes me. They insist that I got beat up in a fight at the stadium. So it's back to the drawing board. I make up a story about some guy making a move on my girlfriend in McFadden's. He hits me across the face with a beer bottle, and then I beat the living shit out of him. I even write a song about my made-up fiction. The song's called I'm a Tough Guy. Now everyone believes my bullshit story and starts calling me tough guy. So that's 2 names down, 1 to go. America's Best Crime Writer. When I started my website, I do a little research. I go to John Grisham's website for ideas. After all, he's one of the biggest selling authors ever. I read several of his books. The Client came first. I liked them all. I see that he calls himself America's favorite storyteller, but to me that's bullshit. A few names pop into my mind as my favorite storytellers: Elmore Leonard, Harold Robbins, John D. MacDonald, Ira Levin, James Elroy, and Truman Capote. That's 6 storytellers off the top of my head that I rank ahead of John Grisham. So I say, what the fuck? If John Grisham can make shit up, so can I. So I keep America's, but change favorite storyteller to best crime writer. So there you have it. America's Best Crime Writer. Shit, why'd I stop there? I should have called myself the world's best crime writer. So I'll give you a little something on Wednesday and preview next Monday's first episode on Friday. But that's it for today. I hope you like it. I hope you like my podcast. Until next time. And that's a wrap.